Hello, my name is Reggie Primo. I work for the University of Nevada Cooperative Extension as the Tribal Outreach Specialist on the Duck Valley Reservation in Northern Nevada. Today I want to show you how to build end walls for a 14-foot by 20-foot PVC style hoop house. I'm here in my shop area, so it's best to build it on a flat surface. I have a concrete floor in here, so that works great. So first of all, we have the baseboard. The baseboard is the foundation of the end wall. I've already pre-drilled a hole on each end, as you can see. I used about an 1.5 inch diameter hole drill because this is a 16-foot baseboard. I've come in about 1 foot on each end so that the two holes are 14 foot on center. And what I have on the floor there is the start of the actual end wall. You can see the baseboard laying down, and as you can see, one end of the PVC hoop is already inside one of the pre-drilled holes. So what I need to do now is to grab this other end of this PVC pipe and kind of just bend it around to the other hole. It just goes right in there. So you want it so it just barely pokes out. You don't want to have it halfway in there because it could slide right out. And I've already started my door frame. What I did is I actually screwed in a template board on the bottom, and that's about 48.5 inches wide. And then I cut another top template board. That's just to center the doorway and to make sure it's straight up and down. So the next thing I want to do is make sure the door frame is square. So I have it lined up on the template on the bottom on each side. I actually have the tops already pre-cut at the same angle as the PVC hoop. And I have the bottom hanging over because I still need to cut that in. So what I want to do now is take a square, hold it in each corner. And as you can see, it's pretty square. And just move it down here. That's pretty square. In this corner, we're looking good. So it's square all the way around. And so what I already went ahead and did is I scribed a line on the ends what I need to cut on both sides. So once I cut that off, it should fit right in there. We'll screw it in and then we'll get ready for the next step. Okay, we're back. I've cut the two vertical uprights for the door frame. I've already drilled this one in from the bottom of the baseboard, as you can see. And what I do is I pre-drill the holes with the drill that's smaller than the screw, and I use number 9 deck screws that are 3 inches long. I like to use screws because nails tend to work their way out and screws work a lot better. So what we're going to do now is screw this one in. I'll try to do it while holding the camera at the same time. Now you can see that board twisted, so we have to make sure it's not twisted and make sure it's flush against the board. So we'll put the second screw in. There we go. And then the line that I have drawn on top is actually at 72 inches. So that's the top of our door is going to be 6 foot. I have a mark on both ends. So like I said earlier, I want to pre-drill before we drill or before we put the screws in. That's the way it'll keep from splitting the boards. So as you can see, the door frame is in and it's tied in with screws. Now I have the next vertical uprights on each side. I cut them the same way using the same method I showed earlier. There's actually going to be a vent on this side. It's not laid out just yet. I'm going to drill the baseboard and put 2 screws in that upright and then the other upright on the other end, and then go from there, and then I'll frame that vent on this side. And then after we're done there, we'll put in some cross angled boards for support. And then we're almost ready to put the panel on top of that. Okay, before I explain how to go about installing the angled sideboards, I wanted to just show you the vent. As you can see from the tape measure, it's a 16-inch opening, and the other way the width is 18 inches. Now you can put this vent on either side because they're both the same width. It's just that it's really not necessary to have 2 vents on each end wall unless you really feel the need to. This is a small hoop house, so 1 vent should be adequate. And you can even leave the doors open in the daytime as well. So with that, we'll move on to the angled supports. So what I did is I scribed a line. You can see it right there. And if you let me show you real quick with the tape measure. So first of all, the width of the door is actually 48 inches. And the reason let me see further, 48 and a half actually. And the reason I designed it for 48 and a half is because 1 full sheet OSB panel is 4 foot by 8 foot. So 1 full sheet width will fit right inside of that door. And that works perfect. And from the inside of the door to this line is another 48 inches. So that's another full sheet. And if you can imagine, the imaginary line right there is where that full sheet ends. So you have a little tiny corner section that this angled support, you can actually screw that little corner piece to that board. And then the next thing is there's actually no measurement from this point to this point. I'm just staying about 1 inch to 2 inches away from the pipe. Don't want to get too close because you don't want to risk splitting where the cutout is at. And then when you get to the top of this frame, you just want to make sure that you're not close to where this other top support ties in, because you're going to be screwing, you've been attaching this angled support to the 2x4, and you don't want those screws to be too close together. So you just have to eyeball it and go from there. And then what I did is I just grabbed a marker or a pencil and scratched a line underneath on both ends. As you can see right here, you can see the line. And that way there's no guesswork when you make that cut on the saw. So I did that on both sides, and I'll just take it to my table saw or my miter saw over there and make that cut. And then we'll come back and continue on. So I have the angled supports attached. They're already screwed on to the baseboard and to the top. Now I want to share why I put these little short pieces in there. And that's basically, I will come over on this side and give you an idea. Remember I talked about the line there that I drew, which is enough for a 48-foot sheet of OSB panel to fit. So this is where that panel will end, and as you can see there's still a little piece, little corner piece that we're going to have to add in. So, and I have this straight edge showing you exactly where that full sheet ends and this little corner piece will begin. So that little top piece, that little short 2x4 is just a place to anchor the top of that little corner I'm going to add in later. And that's the reason why I put it there on each side. And it serves another purpose. As you can see here, we have a 2x4 fastener, and I happened to run by these by accident. I was looking for a way to anchor this PVC to the frame and just had some of these 2x4 fasteners laying around, so I thought maybe that would work. So what I did is slide it in like that, and it'll just screw in centered on that 2x4. And then I've already fastened one over here at the top. And what I did, you can see the screw here, and there's another screw on the bottom that holds it to the 2x4. And get a strong zip tie and just run it through the center, and that'll hold it in place firmly. It's pretty solid, not going anywhere. So everywhere we have the upright or the little short piece over there, I'll put in a fastener and a zip tie. And as you can see all the way around, that's where the next one will go. One there, and then again on that short block. And then once we get that in place, I'll work on the door frame. And once the door frame is in place, we lay the OSB panel over the top and secure that in place, and then we're almost done with one end wall. Okay, so what I want to do now is show you the quickest, easiest way to frame the door. First of all, I start out with some grade stakes, and there's a photo of this grade stake, 4-foot long stakes. These are 9/16 inch thick, about 1 3/8 inches wide, and about 4 foot long. And what I do is I put the grade stake just inside the door frame, on the sides, on the top, and on the bottom, right here. And then I take the frame, the door uprights, and just slide it all the way down so that you can see right inside of there, it's the thickness of that stake. And I slid it all the way down to the bottom, and do the same with the other side, like so. That way you have an even spacing all the way around the door. And you can see right there where the line I already drew, that's where I'm going to cut, which will fit right inside of that grade stake on that side. And the other side, the same, have a line drawn. So I'll cut that, and then I'll come back and do the top of the door and the bottom of the door the same way. Okay, I've got the uprights cut to fit on both sides, and I've got the bottom and top board cut to fit. And as you can see, it's evenly spaced on both sides, even space, bottom, even space, and top, all even space, simply because we put those grade stakes on each side and on top and bottom to maintain that correct spacing in between. Okay, I have the door frame put together. It's sitting in there. It's spaced evenly all the way around. We're going to get to that later. For now, I put the OSB panels on each side of the door, and it's ready in place. Notice that line I described earlier fits perfectly there. But the most important thing to look for is that one edge of the OSB panel is even with the door frame. Not the door now, but the door frame all the way up to the top. It doesn't matter if this part is not even, and you don't want this edge hanging below the 2x4 baseboard. And if you can notice on this side, that board isn't exactly even. It's a little off there, but that's because the baseboards are rarely perfectly straight. So as long as you're not hanging over the edge, you're good. And we're even on the door frame all the way up. So for now, what I do is I'll put 3 screws, one in the bottom on the baseboard and just one on the top on both sides. And that's just to hold it in place. Then what we do is we stand up the end wall, and from the back side, we take a marker and we edge along the curvature of the hoop, and then cut, and then take the OSB panels off and cut where we traced. And then we screw it on in place. And after that's done, we work on the door. Okay, I'm looking at the back side of the end wall. I have it stood up and I have it braced so it won't fall. And so what I did now, and I took a black Sharpie and I marked along the edge of the hoop all the way up to the top. So what you want is you want to stay below the height of the hoop. Otherwise, the edge of your cut may tear into the plastic, and we'll see more of that once we start putting this hoop house up. So on this side, same thing. I already marked the line with the Sharpie all the way up to the top. And also, where the vent is gonna go, I drew a line right over the support, the lower support frame, and also on the top side of the upper support frame, and on the outside of the vertical 2x4. So once we take or set the end wall back down, we'll take the 2 panels out and we'll cut the area where the hoops are, and also the vent door. And then once we cut those out, we put the pieces back on and screw them on permanently. And then we set the door in and set the last OSB panel in place and get the door and hinges put on. Okay, so I have the OSB panels cut to the curvature of the hoops. But I want to show you one thing before I tie these panels in. So right here by the cutout for the vent, as you can see up there in the upper corner where it's really thin, that actually cracked off. And show you right there. So to take care of that, I had to add in another cross piece, as you can see right here. And that's to catch or to tie in that little section there. So I just added another piece onto the other side for strength. And also above the door, another 2x4 cross piece, because the door will actually end halfway through this 2x4 here. So that upper piece will have to be tied in to this half and that 2x4. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so this is the finished product. Everything is in place. Everything is screwed in. As you can see, it's good all the way around. I have two 4-inch heavy-duty hinges for the door. And the spacing is even all the way up. And then over here, you can see that little corner piece that I added in. It's cut with the curvature of the PVC pipe all the way around. And then there's that little piece above the door that we added in. And then this is the vent. We won't put the latch on until we actually put the hoop house up at the side, and then we'll have to actually screw it in so it's not accidentally opening. And then here's the door. See, the door opens nice and evenly. Very simple. And we'll also screw that in so it's not opening as we transport. So that's it. That's everything it takes to build one end wall. And of course, 2 end walls to each hoop house. Thanks for listening.